welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the broadcast here. I'm Bricky CPK, joined by CC&C now as my co-caster, and we have our following matchup here, Alliance, going up against Elements Pro Gaming. And another best of one here, the round-robin stage. The Kiev Major EU qualifiers coming at you. Alliance, they are one of the hot teams right now in this event as they're currently set at a 4-1 record. This is their first match, actually, of day number 2, and EPG, on the other hand, a team that's been mediocre, but you know what? They could pull an upset here, CC&C.
Yeah, they're 3-2. They just took down NIP.
Oh, they did. Wow.
A few minutes ago. Yeah, so they're actually in a pretty decent position. They have a chance to make the playoffs currently, so this match means quite a bit for them. Also means I think it's very unlikely that Alliance doesn't make the playoffs because I think they beat Bears. Did they beat Secret as well?
They beat Secret, yes.
Yeah, so they've beaten like all the top teams, so it's pretty unlikely they don't make the playoffs at this point, but Elements definitely has a shot. It's between like them and kind of NIP and C9 for that like 4th slot currently.
That's interesting, because I mean, I gotta say, going into this, honestly, I did not think much of EPG. But the fact that they're 3-2, and as you said, they're coming off a victory over NIP before this, and we've gotten the chance to I've gotten the chance personally to cast a couple of their games. I have been gladly surprised and impressed by their play. So I don't know if you feel the same way, but about these guys here.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of players that have stuck together for quite some time. I'm not sure how long LeBron has been on this team, but I think the rest of them have been here for a while. Swift Ending plays a dope Slark. And I think they just like tend to play their game. They don't stray too much from like their standard picks. So I think like they could possibly get figured out pretty easily by like the better teams, like Alliance. So we'll have to see how it goes.
We gotta talk about these picks though, because Wisp, Tiny, the first 2 picks for Alliance. I feel like we're living in the past here.
Yeah, it's Tiny is definitely a very, very limp hero. It's probably his most well-known hero. Hanskin also a Wisp player. So, you know, from time to time they'll just pull it out. It's a little surprising they go for it first too. It doesn't reveal too much. I'm not really sure exactly what the reasoning for it is. I think the more interesting thing is that Elements responds with a first phase Timbersaw. Obviously very, very good versus Wisp Tiny as they're both strength heroes. They have a lot of burst, so if you get ahead versus the Timbersaw, you could potentially just blow him up at the start of every fight and make his life miserable. But you know, those heroes also don't typically lane very well. They don't have a lot of kill potential versus Timbersaw early, so a lot of times he'll get off to a good start and be quite good versus these heroes. We'll have to see like if he's able to get a good lane. I like this Ursa ban a lot.
Ban Ursa, and then Skywrath Mage actually comes out pretty quick. This is a different, I mean, you know, so we're talking about the Wisp and Tiny. Yeah, it doesn't reveal too much, but is this something that you could give them a chance to react to now because of that, or are you not really concerned about that either?
I don't think you see a Wisp Tiny and you immediately think of, you know, there's not some like super glaring counterpick. I think the Timbersaw is pretty decent. An Alliance Snap picking the Sky, I think, is a direct counter to the Timbersaw. There aren't many supports that can actually zone the Timbersaw just one-on-one. Even if the Timbersaw is mid, which I think is unlikely, he doesn't do very well against the IO Tiny, so it's probably either safe lane solo or, you know, off lane. But they have a Centaur, so it's probably safe lane. The Skywrath can go up there with whatever offlaner and just spam the nukes on the hero. The silence is obviously very, very good. Although it does leave them a little bit lacking on disables, and their supports are very, very squishy if they fall behind.
Got Earth Spirit on the side of Elements Pro Gaming. What about something like a... You know, they probably wouldn't go that in here, but what I do think a Wisp Tiny, the idea that they could just catch you all of a sudden because they relocate in, it's something like a Beastmaster with that Hawk to kind of scout out those locations potentially could be decent. But I mean, with the Timbersaw and Centaur already, we probably wouldn't be seeing that, right? So.
Yeah, I also don't think it's a Jonathan fan hero typically. I think they ban out the Nyx. He plays like a lot of the Nyx. I think he'll play Bat Rider from time to time. He'll play the Centaur. I don't recall him playing the Beastmaster very much, if at all.
Okay, yeah, so actually you're referring to Alliance, and actually now that I'm thinking about that, could potentially be good for Alliance too. I was more so on the EPG side against the IO Tiny, but...
Yeah, not with the Centaur and the Timbersaw already picked. Yeah, I didn't really have a way to fit it in.
Okay. They go Clockwork on the side of Alliance, so it kind of fits that theme of just, we can catch you. And then he goes in with a hook shot, IO Tiny relocate in, and they finish the job deal.
Yeah, I'm curious as how Alliance are going to lane this. I think Alliance are pretty all in. Their lanes need to go very well with these heroes because Clockwork is not a hero that does anything really from behind. Tiny, whenever they get to the point where they start getting some tankiness and you can't really burst people anymore, things begin to get rough. All right, so it's gonna be Timbersaw mid. I think that gives Alliance a fairly good shot in the lanes. This Timbersaw will most probably have a pretty rough time, but I like this Clink's pick a lot because it'll just completely own the Clockwork 1v1. So it opens up their last support pick to be something to deal with the lanes, or if they just in general like they can do almost anything with this last pick. The Earth Spirit can roll on mid, potentially help the Timbersaw. He can focus on the offline. I think EPG have a lot of options, and I think they're actually in a pretty good position with the draft so far. Alliance's supports are just so squishy, and if they're not like very far ahead with these heroes, just snowballing, getting kill after kill after kill, then they're gonna have some issues.
One that comes to mind is actually something like maybe a silencer even. Something that as soon as they jump in, you have that global silence presence to be able to use and then prevent maybe the follow-up damage as a result of that. So is that potentially one that you could see as well, or would that be a little weak here?
For
EPG, sorry.
For EPG? Maybe. I think it's maybe a little bit too... I'm trying to think. Do they want something... They probably want a hero to pull in the safe lane. Let's see. I think Silencer's not the worst. I'm really not sure what they're gonna go for here. They have the Earth. I'm also not sure what they're gonna do with this Earth Spirit. If they're gonna play around bottom with the Centaur, and I think that's sort of gonna be decided with Alliance's last pick, because that's almost definitely the Loda hero, and depending if it's a carry that can be punished or not, it sort of determines where this Earth Spirit is gonna play, which also in turn determines where their next support is gonna be.
Yeah.
So I think the lands are still a little bit up in the air. But I think for sure this Clinks will have a really nice time top, which I think is pretty huge for Elements. Alright, so yeah, they pick a CM. It's a support that can do this dual offlane with the Centaur and be very, very strong. All these heroes use the mana quite well, and also if the lanes are more static, if it's a lane he can't really pressure down bottom, he has the potential to back up to the jungle and just farm at any point. So I think the CM pick is also is really, really good. The CM Centaur dual lane is quite strong. They have a lot of kill potential, and Alliance's support's really not the greatest at killing. They're, the Skyrath obviously a great harassing support, and the Wisp can, is going to be playing around with the Tiny mostly. So I think Loda's here maybe able to get punished pretty hard. As EPG banned out the Juggernaut, the Nyx is banned out, Ursa banned out, so a lot of these really, really strong laners aren't in the pool anymore.
Yeah, Lon's going to have to think long and hard about their final pick right here. They got about a minute. A couple things I wanted to go over. One, for real quickly, like Crystal made it, obviously the aura is going to be very beneficial this game, too. You got to hear like Timbersaw most definitely would benefit from that ability. And then on the side of Alliance, I've casted a couple of Alliance games yesterday, and overall it seemed like their theme was that 4-1 strategy idea. Protect Loda, get him the farm. They even ran the Magnus Ogre Magi around him playing Juggernaut, in the game against Secret, I believe it was, and just all about buffing him up. This is a much different theme, right? This is the Limp is going to ideally get a snowball of a start as Tiny, as you mentioned. And how about that? Shadow Fiend.
Tiny.
A Loda Tiny, as you said. That is different.
Okay. I didn't expect that. Loda almost always plays... Limp almost always plays Tiny. It's one of his signature heroes. I think this gives them a tower hitter, which is something they kind of needed. They have just too much... They have all of this jump in, blow up, kill heroes, this pick off, aggressive style, and not really anyone to take down the buildings, which you kind of need whenever you're versing an Earth Spirit, a Centaur, CM heroes that can just jump right on top of you. If this Tiny walks up to try and hit the tower, he's going to get killed very, very easily. And there's not much they can do about it. So I think the Shadow Fiend pick sort of salvages their draft a little bit, because I think EPG was definitely looking very good coming into this last pick. I think the Crystal Maiden stirred up their draft quite well. And the Shadow Fiend, I think, gives Alliance a shot, but I think EPG is actually is fairly happy with their draft. I think the Clinks is going to have a really nice time. The Shadow Fiend Wisp, I think this Timbersaw is going to have a pretty rough time mid, but I think the Centaur and the Clinks will be in good enough positions to where the Timbersaw will be able to get a lane, catch up, and if the Timbersaw gets a lot of items this game, and then it's not an easy kill by any means for Alliance. They're pretty low on, like they don't have a lot of right clickers. They don't have a lot of ways to bring this Timbersaw. Once he has the Bloodstone, has a hood, a plate mail, then I don't know how really they take him down.
They're all about burst, is what it is. Of course, with the combo of Tiny, you got Shadow Fiend, even the Requiem's a raise cooldown. It's like, yeah, that's definitely their theme. So yeah, Timbersaw could prove to be an issue, no doubt. And it's kind of funny figuring that because he was a second pick Timbersaw. It's not like it was the final pick of the draft by any means either.
Yeah, and I don't think the Timbersaw necessarily is like a great pick. This game, I think it's more about the fact that the Clinks will have a really nice time. The Centaur should have a nice time bottom, and they'll be able to make space and like let this Timbersaw catch up, because this time mid is not going to be fun. They're even doing the Shadow Fiend. You kill the cogs in the base, so SF is going to have 12, 15 souls coming to lane. So Timbersaw is going to get wrecked mid, and I think it's pretty important that they do well in their other lanes, which I think they will. And you know, we talked about Alliance being a whole lot about bursting heroes, catching heroes, and like taking these quick fights where they're jumping in and, you know, starting the fight 4v5. And as this game goes a little bit later, you get the Aghanims on Centaur, and it can, you know, it just totally changes the tide of everything, especially whenever you're playing this sort of all-any style. You have a Tiny, you have a Clockwork heroes that they go in, they have a hard time getting out. You've got a Centaur Ags can make the game very, very difficult for that style of play.
Yeah, the cogs all of a sudden become useless at that point, so definitely an issue to be concerned about, kind of almost a timing that, you know, Alliance, you figure that ideally they're in a good spot before he gets that Ags, if he ends up getting it in the end, with the game lasts that long, that is. So definitely expecting to be an earlier game presence here from Alliance, and I had to double check real quickly while we were setting up for this game too, with the Dota buff after that draft. In the last 3 to 4 months here, Loda has not played a single game with Tiny. So, I mean, this is a different... now, in his overall history, he's played Tiny in the past, like his whole time by all means. But, again, and recently with this roster, especially lately and everything, he has not played Tiny. So I'm not saying he's going to forget how to play the hero by any means, but it's interesting, you know, seeing a player play a hero that he has not played in so long in a pretty significant matches we're talking about. So, but they felt necessary to do so.
Yeah.
Change there.
Yeah, Timbersaw actually getting the range group deny was pretty nice there, but this lane is gonna be it's gonna be so difficult. Come level 2, level 3, Shadow Fiend starts getting raises online, and he just hits for so much more damage than Timbersaw. It's gonna get very hard very quickly. So I think, you know, the Shadow Fiend is gonna have a nice game here, which he needs to. This is a game where, you know, like we talked about, Alliance wants to be ahead, and the SF is really their only tower hitter. So I think him having this good matchup mid is very important for Alliance. As Mitch may actually go down bottom.
No, he's going to barely live. He actually landed the hoof stop onto Skywrath, and that allows him to get the distance to run away, but man, was he close to dying right there. He's going to limp on over to the shrine, though, and that'll heal him on up. It's been kind of interesting, because Merlini's had the similar reactions, too, with the shrines, where it's like it's almost like a sarcastic, like, hey, this game's easy.
I was laughing about the he's going to limp on over.
Oh, see, I didn't even realize it made that connection. If Limp was actually the one limping on over, that would have been perfect. But I'll save that for later. What do you think about Shrines? Do you think they're overall better for the game here?
Yeah, I think it makes snowballing in these games that are just over instantly from a good start. I think it sort of nerfs that a little bit. I think it makes the early game a little bit faster paced, which I think is a good thing. You aren't these heroes just always walking back to base, since they nerfed the suiciding, which for a while was sort of the means of making the game a little bit faster. Jonathan fan is taking a beating up top.
Yeah, he's doing his best to avoid death right here, obviously. He pops the cogs and gonna kind of use that protection.
What?
Rolls on through, he avoids getting hit by it. And Clockwork gonna go around the trees. I mean, and he's going to survive, actually. I was gonna say he still might not make it out, but yes, he will. Some sidesteps, man.
Yeah, they've got a huge wave pushing onto the tower. Clinks gets his clarity canceled as well. It's actually pretty bad for him. He does have the CM aura, so he's not going to run completely out of mana. But yeah, this is definitely a better start for the Clockwork than I think I had expected. Already up to level 3, the Clinks sitting at level 2. The supports doing all right for themselves, but I think with the CM actually choosing not to go down to bottom because the Skywrath was going to commit there, and they can't really deal with the Skywrath constantly harassing, with the Tiny having a lot of bursts as well. So Alliance definitely doing well enough in their lanes because they needed to have a good start. As Gogi actually
could be a first blood coming out with that battery assault. The Cog's going to push back Earth Spirit initially. Gonna spread some of that battery assault though, and Gogi will end up dying though. The rocket to finish him off. First blood going out in favor of Jonathan Fan. Now he may end up dying. He's doing some side steps though. The Cog's coming out again.
No mana on Earth Spirit.
He's not going to escape again, is he? Come on.
Well, mana for roll in a second, but I think he's out of range.
He actually is going to live again. Joseph Fan. He's juking and jiving, staying alive.
Yeah, it's actually pretty crazy. And now the SF is up to level 4 as well. The Timbersaw completely out of regen. Still has the Shrine, but not quite up to his bottle yet. Once the SF gets to level 5, you can see him just one right click, chunks him down so much. It's gonna. This Timbersaw really doesn't have anywhere to go either. There's not really a lane he can rotate to. His Centaur's having a rough time. He's gotten some XP now that some of the Alliance supports have rotated around a little bit. But Timbersaw is not really a hero that rotates very well. He likes to sit in his lane, he likes to farm up to the Bloodstone, and then maybe his hero, the rest of his heroes can rotate to his lane, but that's not something that's likely to happen until he's maybe level 6. Again, the Earth Spirit can roll and potentially get a kill in the Shadow Fiend, but until that point, he's just sort of stuck here, and it's going to get out-farmed almost definitely.
We saw at the bottom jungle area of the Radiant jungle right there. Mitch was trying to run away that whole time, and he actually ended up caught by EGM on that Wisp. He hit those spirits and enough damage to help secure the kill as Skywrath finished the job with a concussive shot right there. So, well played as far as the chase goes, and getting that kill now 2-0 started. And meanwhile, yeah, Limp is just having, not Limp, he expects to be Limp, but Loda is having free farm here at the bottom lane. He's got the full-on power treads, good to go. Is this get the Blink Dagger now next ASAP, especially with the Wisp, or does he go for, you think?
Yeah, I think it could be the Blink Dagger. It could also be the Shadow Blade. We've seen some players go for the Shadow Blade first item. But I think Alliance, whenever Limp plays it, will typically go into the Blink and then to like the Echo Saber, or the Blink, then into the Shadow Blade. But I think they almost always will go for the Blink first. And I think typically whenever you see these teams, then there's heroes that they'll switch between players. A lot of times they will go for the same item build as like the usual player, because obviously I think similarly about the hero. I think the hero should do similar things. So I think he'll probably end up going for the Blink first. And I don't think any other items are glaringly good on Tiny anymore. You used to see drums, but drums have been changed quite a bit. Not really an item we see a lot anymore, as it kind of just got replaced by HOD, which is, once again, not an item Tiny really likes to buy. So I think going for the Blink first is something really he'd rather buy, as the Wisp has a bottle, like you said, so it doesn't really need any mana regen items either.
Timbersaw there in the middle lane. Thank God he had a haste rune, or Cole most likely would be dead right now, but manages to get away, as despite getting hit by both those raises, and Skywrath Mage coming in for the assistant. So good escape though, and making use of that haste rune. Wrap around from Skywrath Mage bottom lane. His Centaur pushing up a little bit too far, and no, he's just gonna get a vision down. Never mind, just gonna get the ward down, and yeah, Centaur obviously difficult to kill. Doesn't have Stampede just yet. He's almost level 6, but they're gonna maybe try right here. Out comes the stun setup from Loda. Ancient seals up, and the concussive shot slowly but surely coming in to secure the kill.
Yeah, this Shadow Fiend last pick was absolutely huge. If they put the Tiny mid, I don't think they would have been able to pressure this Timbersaw enough. He would have been able to get to his level 4, level 5, get the multiple points in reactive armor, and just sort of sit mid, force the Tiny Wisp to be there, and they don't really get anything done. So I think the Shadow Fiend last pick is actually done so much work for Alliance. So let the Skywrath Mage have plenty of space on the map as well. But Swift Ending actually TP's bot and brings down Loda.
Yeah, I mean, they got the tower kill right before that, and he did buy out, I believe. So is that the worst? I mean, I guess he didn't buy out fully, so he did lose a little bit of gold right there. But still, is that the worst case, worst thing ever? The fact that he died right there, I don't necessarily think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I think Swift Ending did kind of want to rotate to bottom, though, because the top lane is going so poorly. Normally as a Clinks, you'd want to just sort of sit up top, pressure this Clockwork, and shut him down, and then eventually take that top tower. Then you'd start rotating around. But now that he's ported down to bottom lane, and will probably be playing down here for quite some time, but it's very hard for them to just sort of walk up and take this tower, because Alliance have so much kill potential, so they can always wrap behind if EPG starts, just walking up trying to hit the tower. So Swift Ending doesn't really have too many things he can do right now.
Jonas and Fanman makes a big play, gets another solo kill at the top lane, bottom lane. They're going to get the kill on a Wisp. Going to make it out of there in time, and Loda having to keep his distance right here. Does have that magic wand, going to use the charges. As his stun cooldown will be coming off in 4 seconds. You have the avalanche, but no opportunity to be had. Swift Ending down here on that Clinks, and yeah, picking up a little bit more farm before he heads elsewhere. You figure, of course, he's not going to sit down here, as his teammates will use that shrine. But yeah, big kill by Jonas Fan once again at the top lane in the solo presence, and he has a 3,000 net worth right now, and not only staying alive, but getting kills, and safe to say he's having a very successful game at a 2-0-1 record so far. And Hookshot is going to be coming off cooldown in 20 seconds now.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be going for the Midas again this game. We've seen Jonas Fan play mostly Clockwork and Nyx, and I think on both of those heroes, he tends to go for a Midas. Either first item or second item. On these more space-making heroes, they have issues farming. Seems to like the Midas to give him a little bit more late game presence as the game goes on and on. As Limp and Loda tend to be pretty... Oh,
Kind of starting a fight right here. The Raze is falling by definitely starting a fight as the hookshot lands on a Centaur. Stampede on cooldown still. And look at that, the poor man's blink dagger, as I like to call it, tossing him in, and Goki is going to end up dying as a result. So 6-2 lead now for Alliance. Chasing him down in the background. We're not done just yet, though. Swift ending. He gets one pick. He wants another. Those Searing Arrows, plenty of damage. Not enough to take him out, though. Limp actually picks up a double kill elsewhere as he does take out Timbersaw. Another use of the poor man's blink dagger. Trying to get away is Swift ending. Not going to be enough, though. Skeleton Walk can't save him. He gets brought down. Another toss in, and down goes Earth Spirit. These tosses are just doing work here from the Tiny.
yeah, and I think this is where EPG has to start to worry. They're only level 4 in the Earth Spirit because this top lane went so poorly or did not go according to plan. The Centaur isn't even close to Blink or Hood. I'll probably have to go Blink first in this game to give them any chance of fighting, but now that Alliance have done so well in their lanes, they're going to probably start 5-manning down these towers. They've gotten their other lanes out. Limp farms a couple of jungle camps, already has the Dragonlance completed. And I think they're going to look to take this mid tower. I don't know if EPG really has a response. They can try and stall it up a little bit, but with the Timbersaw being as poor as he is, only level 4 in the Earth Spirit, so not having access to the Magnetized, I don't know if EPG really has a response.
I mean, Swift ending on Clinks. He is trying to get that Desolator, which, again, we've already
Oh
seen.
my god.
How did he know? He just randomly does right there. Feels like obviously something gave it away. Some sort of information, and they end up being right. They hit the hook shot right away, and down goes the Clinks, just as I'm trying to suggest at least he has something coming there.
I think he read the CM's movement. I think he was looking at the Crystal Maid. He was walking back on the fourth end of the hill, and the CM was walking back and forth as well.
Okay.
And I just figured the Clinks had vision of him. Got a little bit lucky that the Clinks wasn't a little farther away, and barely caught him in the range of those. So really nice read from Jonas and Fonz. They didn't have vision.
And he's going to put the cogs up as our Spirit trapped in the midst of it, TPing in. Not the decision you want to be making there. His teammates just have to run away because they couldn't really get in a spot to obviously save him, let alone turn a fight. And they can't be taking fights right now. That is very evident. Alliance is definitely the scarier team at this point because of the lead that they have, if anything. Yeah, I mean, you were talking about earlier, you know, what can they do to really calm things down and come back in this game? Clinks getting that Desolator, of course, is going to help, but even when he does, they just have so much catch. He's still going to be very vulnerable to being turned on right away.
Yeah, he needed to have a better start. This top lane went so poorly. That whole exchange where they missed the roll, the Clockwork lived. In the meanwhile, he was getting all that XP from the creeps dying, and then he was able to get the solo kill as well. It opened up so much space for him. And after that, he was like level 4. The Clinks really isn't able to zone him anymore because there's a threat that he can walk up, cogs him in, and potentially solo kill this Clinks really early on. So the Clinks didn't get as much as he wanted. They weren't able to get this top tower, which you really want to do with these heroes like Clinks, Juggernaut that have these innate pushing mechanisms. Searing Arrows, the healing ward. If you aren't able to take that top tower, this Clockwork holds it. It gives him so many ways he can move around the map. And, you know, the Timbersaw we knew was going to lose mid. The Scarith committed himself to bottom to pressure the Centaur, make sure he doesn't get a quick blink. And Alliance just winning all 3 lanes like that. That's exactly what they needed. In EPG's lineup, they have a lot of fighting heroes, a lot of heroes that are pretty good at defending towers just by jumping on Alliance before they can jump them. But whenever you're behind like this, they just die so quickly. The Shadow Fiend up to 1400 HP with the treads and the Dragonlance. It's very, very hard to bring any of Alliance down.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they necessarily need a lot of items to be doing decent damage on the side of EPG, as you're kind of getting at there, but even with the levels, I mean, you look at the experience lead, it's about a 4,000 experience lead right now in favor of Alliance, nearly a 6,000 net worth, so having those items definitely help, and yeah, even that's much slightly more ahead of the overall levels too. And this Shadow Fiend, he's level 12, he's got that Dragonlance pushing in now, trying to finish a Manta style, as the Yasha has even been completed. You look at Tiny, and of course he has that Blink Dagger. Him and the Whisper here in the middle lane. He's going to just farm a little bit out, and he has the Wisp nearby, worst case if they do jump in, but not going to be happening. I said APG, they're roaming through the Radiant jungle, but their tier 2 is going to be pushed top in the meantime. So obviously they're hunting for some kind of kill. Not going to get it though, and will they protect? I just don't think that they want to be fighting right now. It's pretty evident, so.
Yeah, they don't have the option to fight. They would really like to. They would like to be able to defend these towers, but the SF is just too farmed at this point, already having Dragonlance, Yasha. He's very, very tanky, getting close to the level 15, so we'll have that HP Talon as well, so we're going to buff up even more. The Clink's not having a Dragonlance, not having a Deso. they're really just so short on items. The Timbersaw, if he tries to walk up to defend the towers like you normally see Timbersaws do, they walk up right in front of the tower and they just sort of stand there. He can't do that. They all just die so quickly in EPG, and still not having the Blink Dagger on Centaur either. They really don't have a way to start the fight except for Earth Spirit rolling in, which is very inconsistent.
Jonas and Van just keeping the hook shots coming. And the Mystic Flare to really finish the job. Not even necessary, but wanted to help get that kill quickly. Limp actually even credit for the kill, landing a raise there, I guess, to secure the job. So nice find on a Crystal Maiden. Again, obviously Clockwork. Jonas and Fan has pretty much been the MVP so far for his team, but definitely overall a great team effort. You got the Bottle of the Urine on a Wisp. You know, and actually something I've seen some Wisp players do, I think it was Z-Freak actually recently. That's middle lane Loda. He took the sidestep initially, couldn't get the save though. From Wisp, not enough of a heal. Swift ending tears through him. Does he have the Desolator? Not even yet, so that was just simply the Searing Arrows and the Strafe. Enough damage, but that's a big pick. Obviously, that's a start for calming things down if you're EPG.
Yeah, that was a really nice read from Swift Ending, knowing that the bottom lane had just pushed in. They're gonna run through the jungle. They had this nice deep ward here, so they saw them running over. He knew it was just gonna be a matter of time before they got there. So using that 3-4 seconds before the rest of Alliance got there, he gets that key pick off. And if they didn't do that, then they definitely would have just marched down to the mid-tier 2 or even Roshan, which they are doing now. So sort of just delaying the inevitable. But off of that pickoff, we'll have his Desolator before too long. But I don't know if they can contest this Roshan. It's basically just free for Alliance. And even though they give up that kill, a nice play from Swift Ending there, still in a very, very dominant position on Alliance.
So as I was getting there with the Wisp, kind of a fun item that I've seen is more of a luxury, sure, but it's something like an armlet even on Wisp.
They didn't pick up the Aegis.
Did they?
The Aegis is in Roche. What's happening?
Guys?
Dude, Clinks, go get it, dude.
Guys? I mean, obviously you're aware, like, Alliance?
They forgot. Oh, is he realizing?
realized.
They realized.
Look at that blink back. Like,
Go get him!
Ah, crap, hope he didn't take it. Yeah, no. They're gonna get it. Okay, let's Alliance, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. that's one we can have fun with, because they are doing so well. But yeah, an armlet on a Wisp sounds kind of interesting, and I've kind of seen that a couple times before. Is that something potentially could be good here, you think? Or?
I think it's alright. I think the one game I saw him do that, they had a whole lot of physical damage in the other team. And it was a game where the mech wasn't really going to be that great, but I think most games just getting a casual buckler or building into the mech ends up being better. And I think mech would probably be better this game, as EPG is kind of relying on bursting heroes like the Centaur, jump on one specific hero, the Earth Spirit using all of his damage, Timber all of his damage, and then just killing a hero. The Clinks as well, because I don't think they really have any other options. So I think the Wisp was more concerned about the rest of his team being alive rather than himself, because he shouldn't be in a position to get jumped anyway.
Speaking of getting jumped, Earth Spirit, he's trying to make his way out of here. That's not going to work, though. Hook shot. Seen this several times before. There comes the toss. Look at Loda's playing some, shooting some hoops this game. A lot of basketball. Throwing his teammates around left and right and hoping to set up kills with it. So this Earth Spirit has been caught several times, supporting Cass in general. And Jonas Fan, how many assists does he have? He's 3-0-8, so he's been involved in 11 of the 13 kills this game. Not surprised.
Yeah, they're just going to march down to bottom. Alliance knows that EPG really, really just cannot fight them, especially with this Aegis. Maybe if they didn't have that, they could try and blow up this SF before he gets relocated out of the Clockwork counter initiates. But until that Aegis wears off, they just have free access to taking down the rest of these tier 2s, and EPG really don't have a response. They're going to look for any stragglers they can find around the map. They have some nice deep wards. Their warding is really good, this triangle here. The wards down here looking for any heroes straggling off, but so far haven't really been able to find anything.
And relocate in. Speaking of finding something, they find Timbersaw. And he tried to Timber Train away just in time, but he still gets caught. You have the distance there. Skeleton Glock, though, popped up from Clinks. He's putting in some right clicks into Tiny with that Desolator now, but obviously with the supporting cast nearby, he wasn't going to stick around for too long. Ends up running away. I mean, Centaur still has that Stampede, but I don't think that would have really saved the Timbersaw, though. At that point, he gets caught, and again, Clockwork, if anything, you got to figure probably would have caught him if they tried to attempt to flee right there aggressively. So, nice pick off yet again. And actually, speaking of Clockwork, what does he have? I mean, he went the Hand of Midas as you're talking about. Now he's going to be picking up that Blade Mail next in line, but really wanted to ramp up that farm initially. Got an extra mana here from his talent tree, but Shadow Fiend, Manta style, he's going to go right into the Butterfly.
Yeah, they're just looking to end the game as soon as possible. Timbersaw and Clinks are not cores that play very well from behind. They're all about having a nice landing stage and snowballing off of that good landing stage. And Timber, only has the hood, the arcanes, boots, soul ring, is just not at that super tanky stage where Alliance starts having issues killing him. He's just a piece of paper. He can't play up in these fights, and if you're not able to do that, then Alliance just does this. They walk up to your high ground, and what response do they have? They can try and kick, slow it down with whatever spam they have, but they don't really have any way to jump this SF and kill him with the Aegis.
Yeah, especially with the Aegis, exactly. If anything, they got the initial strafe, and Klink's getting in it with some big auto attacks if he just happens to be standing there with no support, but that's just not the case. So Alliance are ready to go. They're being patient as expected. The fortification going to be forced out there. And going to reset and probably go finish off the tier 3. We've seen this a lot of the matches. Again, I've only cast them twice, I think, but they basically get the tier 3 as bottom lane. What's going on down here? There's a kill on a Clockwork first. They get the turn kill done on the Klinks. And then over here, Tiny is still picked off. So, okay, a couple of different fights taking place. I didn't even realize that middle fight, or the bottom lane was even going on. Why is he even down there in the first place? But now Skywrath Mage.
Yeah, he doesn't have a TP. He's most probably going to go down. They see that he doesn't have a TP. He has the kick up on Earth Spirit, so unless he wastes that, there's almost no way he lives. And yeah, should get stomped after this wears off. He is definitely going down. But yeah, I think it was a little bit of a miscommunication. Jonas and Fan wanted to TP bottom and kill the Klink, so he was split pushing that bottom tower. Didn't actually have a dust on him, so hooked in, and then the Klinks just sort of sat there and right-clicked him, hadn't picked up the Blade Mail yet either, so Klinks gets a nice kill there as well as getting the tower, so getting a little bit closer to his BKB, and in the meanwhile, EPG taking advantage of that and jumping the rest of the Alliance heroes. I think brought down Loda as well as the Skywrath Mage, so yeah, pretty nice turn for EPG and a little bit of miscommunication. Alliance sort of trying a whole lot of things at once. The relocate came in very, very late because EPG saw that the Clockwork TP bottom, so they immediately stormed at them. They weren't able to relocate bottom whenever they wanted to. A combination of maybe Alliance misplaying slightly and EPG also taking advantage of these really small opportunities like we saw around the mid-tier 1 whenever Swift ending over that quick kill.
And despite that miscue, I mean, Alliance still is in a very good spot. And kind of going back to the point, they've been really good at killing that tier 3 tower and then resetting and then getting the shrines ASAP. But obviously that's kind of stalled right there as the tier 3 stays alive due to that distraction at the bottom lane. But going to reset now as they do make their way back to the top lane. And even without the Aegis, I still think that they probably feel pretty comfortable. In fact, Limp is trying to finish off the farm for the Butterfly here, which he did get. So there we go, Butterfly purchased up here. They do get the pick on a Wisp, but at what cost now for the Klinks? He's caught in that Mystic Flare, did a lot of damage on him with the Ancient Seal up. He's going to be locked down. Sentry's there as well, so no way for him to get out with those cogs in place. He got Centaur finally activated the Stampede a little bit later on. We'll have the retreat option successful for his teammates.
Oh boy, Crystal Mid. You're in the wrong neighborhood.
That is just poking the bear right there.
Alright, he actually lives.
Somehow does live.
Yeah, they get a couple of kills. I think they're gonna try and pressure the high ground though. With the Klinks dead, they really just don't have the damage to bring anyone down. Limp's Aegis is down, so Centaur may try and stomp, slow things down a little bit. Has the hood as well, so won't die too quickly to the Tiny's burst. And you can see Limp is a little cautious. But Hanskin does relocate in with the Skywrath, so the whole full 5 here for about 10 seconds.
And there we go. There's the tier 3. IO, don't say they're gonna burst him before he gets out. Oh my god. EPM. Talk about poking the bear. That bear woke up and slashed his face off.
Yeah, a little overextends a little bit. I think maybe misclicked onto the high ground. Tried to Glimmer Cape away, but does go down. Not the biggest of deals, just a Wisp. Already has his Glimmer Cape, so didn't really lose any gold there, but they still get the Shrine. Actually, no, they don't. They bring it out to about half HP, and they back off, scared that DPG was potentially running at them, which they did actually smoke up, so I think it was a high probability. But I think they're just going to try and finish off the BKB on Swift ending, look for whatever kills they can while Alliance is split up before they group back up and wait for the next Aegis, because I think once, Limp gets the BKB, has next Aegis, I don't really know if there's a way EPG can stop them from going on the high ground. So they need to play around, that not happening. Try and split Alliance across the map, find random skirmishy fights, these scrappy fights, look to jump in, kill multiple heroes, get out, go back in. If they can do that, then I think EPG has a chance, but they need the BKB on Swift ending, or they need these fights to go very, very well, at least the start of them, for EPG to take a fight and punish that window where Alliance doesn't have the BKB, they don't have that Aegis.
Well, speaking of that BKB on Klinks, he really just about has it. He should have it before another fight breaks out here. Only needs the pattern, but they are going to lose that top shrine in the meanwhile, and so Alliance makes their way up there and takes it out. And now they're going towards the bottom, using the smoke, actually. run through this Observer Award, so not going to be scouted out, and this could be something here, EPG. Will they get caught before Swift ending? Ooh, he is in this, of course. Her Spear going to be the one that's jumped, but he barrels away. They kill the neutral creep, but the hook shot will land on Her Spear. He goes for the push out. Missing Claire helping to finish the job, though. But you know what? That being the only victim, EGM, they got to be pretty overall happy with that.
Yeah, I don't think they're too settled. I really think EPG wanted to find a good fight there. They all sort of just walked up as 5, though, on Alliance, and unless EPG is jumping the Wisp, they're jumping the Scarra, these super squishy supports, then it's kind of hard for them to take the fight. The Shadow Fiend just stands up at the front. Tiny is pretty tanky. Now, he can be kited around, brought down for sure, as he doesn't have any armor items yet. It's only, 8, 9 armor on him. Is very, very susceptible to the Clink's Deso, a Timbersaw burst damage, but as long as the Shadow Fiend is in front, then EPG really doesn't have a way to bring Alliance down. And I think they still need to find that pick-off. They need to find that scrappy fight. If they don't, then it's just a matter of time before Alliance gets the BKB, they get the Aegis, and then it becomes very, very hard for this underfarmed EPG cores.
10,000 net worth lead right now for Alliance. And Clockwork, again, that Blade Mail at 2150 gold saved up. So obviously that Hannah Midas is definitely paying off quite a bit. Tiny with the Ags, of course, really hasn't been able to make the most use of it, though, yet. Other than go for that kill, and what they got on there from the bottom lane. Centaur, he jumps me on the top side. The Cox trapping him in. Mystic Flare's down, and there's the relocated. To definitely guarantee that kill. So Wisp is probably just going to relocate back himself, maybe. But they get the kill on a Centaur, and Wisp will be fine in that jungle area.
Yeah, you can see immediately after that, EPG stormed down to this bottom lane. They're looking for any potential pickups they can get, but EGM sniffs it out, backs up, not going to give any kills away to EPG, which is really what they want. That's their way back into this game, is finding these pickoffs, and they're not going to give it to them. Alliance is actually going to force EPG back to the high ground. I don't think they're going to commit. They may just chip a little bit away at it. They have the BKB and ESO, so they can potentially full commit if EPG isn't set up. They're getting here, though, but a little bit late. Maybe lose the range racks.
That's at least going to be the range for Axel. Definitely for sure is the Aegis. Of course, not up on a Shadow Fiend currently, so they don't want to commit too crazy like. Speaking of that, though, Roshan, he is going to be up here in the very near future, and Alliance aware of that, of course, as they are going to make their way back at the range racks. About 26 minutes in right now. Reset, probably go for another Roshan. Hopefully this time pick up the Aegis and make use of it right away, or have that presence at least. But Roshan is up, and the Dark Lord's presence being felt now.
Yeah, there was a really... Oh, he went to 15% lifesteal over the 2 damage per soul? What? Is that a misclick?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I've heard a lot of hype about that, and for good reason. That's such a damage increase. That is there any logic to that? I
mean, maybe he doesn't want to get Satanic, but Satanic is so good this game. It's just a good item now in general, and you really want to buy it on SF. Maybe he misclicked. I don't know. But I've never seen someone take the lifesteal before. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's only 9k MMR.
Yeah, he's 9k, so he either misclicked or he knows something we don't.
One of the two. Alright, he's on that Roshan trying to finish it off, but they do not want to let this go easy. The Stampede activated. Wisp going to get picked up in the back row right away. Tiny's locked out as well. At the Magnetized Sprint, it's a good damage, but Limp is able to sit there right-clicking, and Swift ending. He is feeling the pain as a result. He will survive barely. LeBron Dota, not so much. Freezing Field going to be near a full duration before he gets executed by the Shadow Fiend, and they did pick off Clinks in the background. Looks like EGM actually finishes them off with the Spirits, if anything. And then Limp will finish off and get the Aegis on top of that. So, sloppier fight, kind of, but a 3-for-3. I guess the buyback on a Wisp was used to actually get that kill. So really the numbers for EPG, but Limp, he's the one that wins the fight.
Yeah, they just don't have answers for the Shadow Fiend. That was exactly the kind of fight that EPG wanted, though. It was extremely chaotic. There was stuff going around all over the place. The Magnetize put in a lot of work. And the Clink's blowing up one target at a time. That was like the optimal fight for EPG. Limp is just so farmed. Has the Hurricane Pike now as well. So much HP. The evasion, putting in massive work. The Clink's it'll be so long before he has an MKB. Whenever you're behind like this on a Clink's, you like to buy tiny items, get like a small crit, and a Dragon Lance here and there. Just try and like buff up your damage wherever you can, so you can actually kill these squishier heroes. But not able to do that, is forced to go for the MKB, so it's going to be some time before he has that. Until then, Shadow Fiend is so strong, and they're definitely going to march towards the high ground. They want to end with this Aegis. They know that if the game goes longer and longer and longer, the Wisp and Scarrath are going to start to have considerably less impact. The Clockwork as well is not offlaner that scales incredibly well into the late game compared to someone like a Centaur who has the Ags now. So EPG has a shot to defend this high ground, but Alliance is definitely very confident pushing up the hill.
Yeah, that Axe definitely going to be a game changer. The 60% damage reduction and running over everything as well, including those cogs as we talked about. So definitely could be pretty huge right here. Centaur initiates with the hoof stomp. Got the Aegis though, trying to bait out a BKB or just some sort of reaction. Not going to really be happening though. Melee Rax taking the right clicks now from Lemto. The shock rim, it's dealing plenty of damage in return. The fortification to the pop. And in the background, Clinks is going for the quick pick on Skyrath. Skyrath will end up falling, but at what cost for Swift ending? He pops his own BKB. He's on the run. Rockwave of Souls goes off in the background, but they're not even caring about
Oh my
Limp.
goodness.
They want the supporting cast. They're going to get the supporting cast. Tiny's also going to fall right here, looks like, as Clinks will finish him off. And now it's a Shadow Fiend versus the
Limp's
rest.
stranded.
He is stranded, but I mean, he does have plenty of damage. He has an Aegis, but yeah, Timbersaw doesn't really care.
He's going to get kited. He may go down again. This is so good from EPG. They played that fight so well.
Chakram on top, force staff forward. They find him though. He's going for the auto attacks. He splits up with the Mantle Style, going for the quick turn kill, but no, it's not going to happen. The explosion doesn't take anyone with him.
5 for 1.
5 for 1, and as you said, very well fought by EP. The chaotic fights are clearly benefiting them.
Yeah, they did exactly what they needed to do. Swift Ending goes behind. He blows up these squishy supports. They continue to just create chaos. Alliance's heroes, they want the Shadow Fiend in front, they want the supports behind, and they want to just let him hit away and have nothing really bother him. The Centaur jumps in, stomps him. Earth Spirit, can go in and throw some stuns, but they can't actually focus this SF, so instead, they make a very, very smart play, go behind, and the Clinks kills the 2 supports immediately, both within the strafe duration. They aren't able to kite or get away. They pop the dust. I think the Earth Spirit had it whenever he rolled in, so dusted both of them up. And whenever both the supports die like that, they kill Loda as well, who just has the plate mail right now. No BKB, so the Earth Spirit silenced him up, then stunned him immediately after and perfectly changed his spells. And they did exactly what they needed to. They leave Limp for last, the big beefy hero, but whenever he's stranded like that, the rest of his team is dead, doesn't have the heroes to back him up. He could just get kited like we saw. Dies twice to lose the Aegis and the high ground pushes. That was the timing Alliance was looking for.
If you're Loda right here, as they're going to have to push the first tower here in the middle lane. Timbersaw, he's going deep. Okay, it looks like a 2 overconfident now. He's good, though. He is tanked up quite a bit. The Cog's going down. The Stampede actually activated. And a Clockwork, they'll run away with them, so nobody dying from after that. Stampede being on cooldown. If you're Alliance, you wouldn't mind taking a fight at this point, but not going to get any chance as EPG falls back as a team. So they didn't get the tier 1 tower. But that's what's going back to with Loda here on Tiny. These last couple of fights, he really hasn't even been able to use Aegis. I mean, he's had this log now for a while in his hand, and he's not able to hit any heroes with it because he just keeps either getting kited or locked down, both with the Roshan and at that top lane. Would BKB help? I mean, is that going to be a tool that you should think about getting?
Yeah, he'll have to get one eventually. Probably go for the BKB after the AC, but it's sort of how the Tiny works just as a hero. If you're not snowballing, if you're not jumping in, blowing up heroes yourself, then he just doesn't really... Just barely out of range with the hook.
Yeah.
Has Ags on, some fun as well, so he's definitely very far. But yeah, on the Tiny, it's not a hero that really does well against the Clinks. He's obviously a ranged hero, so he doesn't care about the Craggy. They have the Centaur ult to counteract, some of that jump, so they really are dependent on Limp getting super farmed, standing on the front lines, and hitting these buildings, but they kind of missed that window. They lost the Aegis. EPG played that high ground fight beautifully, and now they have the Shivas up on Cole. He's not this super squishy hero. He can stand up in the front like we talked about. And they're really hitting their timings. They're coming into their own, finding a few key pickoffs here and there, utilizing some very nice timings, and especially that Roche fight. Getting the 3 for 3 was sort of a sign to come that EPG have potential to win these fights. They execute the top fight really well, and now they're back in a position where they have a very good shot at winning this game, as Shadow Fiend is not the greatest late game hero ever, and Clinks is getting close to that MKB as well.
Yeah, when it comes to scaling, exactly, it feels like, I'm glad you kind of reiterate that, because going to suggest that earlier too, that Shadow Fiend, he's great for the mid-game presence as he is here, but he will start to taper off a little bit, it feels like. And you got Loda on Tiny. I know the hero, with an act and everything can be pretty threatening in AC, but we've seen his presence so far in this game. It's frankly been pretty minimal as far as being able to be quite the damage dealer that they perhaps are missing out. You almost look back at that talent choice by Shadow Fiend that you talked about. I mean, we're in the pause now, but that level 20 talent, we've seen pretty much every Shadow Fiend go that +2 damage results. It's what, do the math, it's like plus 72 damage, I think I heard it was. So he's missing out on 72 damage for the sake of having that 15% lifesteal built in instead. But is that, in hindsight now especially, I mean, you think of what happened that fight at the top lane. He was kind of sitting there auto-attacking, but Not enough to finish anyone off, actually.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's so much. I mean, I think the damage would have been better here. In hindsight, obviously hindsight is 2020. But I think more the issue is, it's just Alliance lineup. I think they played the early game extremely well. They got the kind of lanes they needed. But whenever you're playing a lineup with Skywrath and Wisp supports, you're always at risk of getting to this point where you aren't able to protect them anymore. The Shadow Fiend isn't dealing out the amount of damage he needs to just start 2-3-shotting everyone, so they can't actually run past him towards the supports. They had the really nice wrap. The supports go down, and it's going to start to get worse and worse. As Skywrath, he's nowhere near a Ghost Scepter. He's going for drums. So, until he gets to a Ghost Scepter eventually, he's just going to continue to die like that. The Wisp is going for Vlad's. So going for more of a team item. The armor will help everybody a little bit, but he's still going to die in 3-4 shots, especially with the MKB coming up now.
Skywrath, maybe you mentioned going the drums right here. Hanskin, actually, he is known for going drums quite a bit, I feel like. As far as any player that I've watched, he probably goes drums more than anyone, which is saying a lot because really no one actually goes drums outside of him from what I've witnessed at least. And I've always kind of valued the item, but if you're going to get drums too, though, I feel like in the earlier game, that's where it's going to have its impact. But not that it won't have impact later on here, but yeah.
Don't question mark, lol.
What are we waiting for? I assume we're going to resume here soon. And they did say 1 minute, so it has been more than a minute, to be fair.
Toilet.
Loda's just confirming what the deal is. But
question mark? Whoa, Alliance, they want to get this game underway. Maybe they're feeling the pressure a little bit.
Oh, yeah, you think? Yeah, no, this is one of these games. I know EPG, they're also, again, they're in a decent spot. You mentioned they defeated NIP earlier today, and they're 3-2 now coming into this. But on the other side, Alliance, they got a lot of praise for the first day. They played all their tough matches, you could argue, in that first day, and they went 4-1, so setting up to be in prime spot here. But here they are now, day 2, and it's that they're starting with a struggle, this being their first match of the day. So probably a little bit of frustration definitely coming in. However, it's still anyone's game at this point, no doubt. I mean, you do see the net worth chart, though. It's definitely dipped down in favor of EPG. But the MKB now has been delivered to Klinks. So you thought he was doing plenty of damage before, and now he's doing more. And, of course, the evasion no longer an issue.
Yeah, and I also really like what they're doing. LeBron picked up the HOD actually first item, and he's just taking control of creeps and just M-clicking them onto the Clink, so he can always dark pack them and get the maximum HP and damage boost possible. It's actually a pretty cool interaction. You can also have it at the very beginning of fights, so it doesn't have to run over and get a creep all the time. Makes their movements a lot more streamlined. And just in general, it's just kind of a cool interaction. Eats it up there, and now up to 2,600 HP. He's so hard to kill with the BKB. That's
a really good point. It's fun things like that. Again, it's not the most popular hero. It's kind of just a fun combination, and I'm glad you pointed that out because it seems like a very powerful tactic actually. And actually, Tiny getting caught.
Oh, he has Ags.
Glimmer Cape. He does have the Ags. A double chakram as a result. Now he's going to be relocated, not far, but close enough to the shrine. And he wants to go back in. However, now the home stop will hit him first. And Loda has yet to do a damn thing, frankly, in this fight. He's just being kited every which way. Now they're going to turn their attention down here. Speaking of the chaos, they want to keep that chaos going. Clockwork's going to end up going down. And back over here, however, you got Shadow holding his ground. Yeah, their kiting is real, though. They're trying to kite around this round, but obviously that's down now. Now Loda, again, going to get caught out. The Glimmer Cape not going to be enough this time around. And Loda, no, he is going to fall in the end. So Wisp is like, I can't save you anymore. Relocates on cooldown. That's 2 pickoffs. Clockwork doesn't even have a buyback, actually. Yeah, they may end up losing the tier 2 here. They could potentially walk up to the top lane and get the tier 1 as well afterwards. EPG is playing these fights really well, and you can see this Tiny just start to fall off. Got the Aghanim's a pretty decent clip. Was getting kills left, right, and center. They're taking all the map control, but it hasn't really progressed any past that at all. The Centaur almost above him in net worth. The Clink several thousand above, as well as the Timbersaw. And the Shadow Fiend, it's not a hero that can play 1v5. He's going to get kited if his supporting cast isn't able to really do that much, and that ends up what's happening. The EPG cores are just storming at them, and they don't have the damage to bring them down. You could definitely appreciate, good Dota play, and EGP right now, that is definitely playing good Dota. EGM, he's playing, no. Do you think he's playing good Dota? he's playing fine. It wasn't meant to be a slide on him. All right. I see. He's not making these star plays necessarily that we've seen from him in the past, but you see what I did there. I praised him, but at the same time, facts are facts. This game. It is a Wisp. You can't. It's not like a super flashy hero, especially with this kind of a lineup. His kind of job is just to click Q and then click Limp and then press E, and maybe press R. He's had a couple of relocates that have saved the day, including that last fight initially, but obviously still in the end, Tiny. Too much damage, too much lockdown. Like, they're making the comment, he wasn't doing a damn thing. Well, I mean, he was just CC'd that whole time. That's why. He's like a puppet of the other team. Speaking of Kai, you mentioned with Shadow Fiend, I mean, Tiny's dealing with that just as much, if not more. And we talked about BKB, but he's still trying to finish that AC as he wants to get that final Hyperstone before obviously getting, and then the buyback on top of that. So even if he manages to get a BKB here, it's going to be still quite a ways away.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the SF being very good versus the Timbersaw in lane, but that matchup shifts back the other way once this Timbersaw gets to the point where he starts getting some of these tanky items. He has the Shivas now, he has the Ags, he has a lot of HP, a lot of armor, and now going for the Octarine next as well. The SF is basically 6-slot at this point. He doesn't really want to swap any of these items out. Can maybe like swap the Satanic for the Manta or something like that, but it's not going to increase his damage really that much dramatically. And you can see the Timbersaw, he just walked up the high ground. The SF was beating him before he had any reactive armor stacked as well, and it was just kind of tickling him. Didn't really have any problems tanking those right clicks, and he still has 2 item slots, even 3 to go. And the Tiny, not a hero that does very well versus these tanky heroes like the Timber is. EGM is mega dead. They have detection.
TP trick? Isn't there like a TP trick? Oh, he doesn't have TP.
Yeah, his TP's on cooldown, so he's dead to rights.
Live! Glimmer Cape! Damn it, I'm going to make you take a while. Alright, he's dead.
Well, yeah, this Timbersaw is going to start to become a huge problem. He's not going to deal the most damage in fights, as they don't have, like, actually, I take that back. They have so many disables. He's going to be able to get his chakrams off. Just walks over the cogs. He's fine.
Walks it off, and again, the pace for EPG. They also have to be, a lot of momentum, just feeling pretty good about the game state right now. And are they going to steal Roshan, too? Look at that. He takes over the creep, as we talked about. The Helmet of the Dominator doing a lot of work here. And they're going to drop. I mean, they're going to be scattered right here, but they cannot react in time.
Yeah, they rocket it. They're kind of walking over, but it's just like you said, they're not going to be able to do anything. They're way too far away. Limp is down bottom, flip pushing, trying to get these lanes out, and they're just going to have to give this Rosh up. So Swift ending, going to have a second life, picking up the Crystallis now as well. Timbersaw will be able to have that cheese or Centaur or Spirit, whoever they give it to. So they are in a very prominent position right now. At Alliance, all they can really do is split push out these lanes, look for potential pickoff with the relocate, a smoke play, finding some hero alone, but I don't know if EPG is going to give them that opportunity, as they always have the Centaur ult to back someone up. And they really, they have the Cogs for lockdown, they have the Avalanche, but those are not hard stuns. And they're just going to be able to just run away with the Stampede, with the Ags. So I worry for Alliance.
Now, Tiny, he does have the AC finish. He actually has another 2,000 gold saved up, so he is actually doing a lot more efficient farming here in these last couple of minutes, and thus that BKB is actually just around the corner. Now, again, it's not going to be the end-all, but the hook stomp initiation. Here comes that straight follow attacks. The Glimmer Cape, though. It will save initially. He says, get off me.
Uh-oh, he's dead.
But yeah, the Wisp, the end is near.
Is he going to try the TP thing? Let's go. Now.
Here we go. Come back!
Oh, that was close. That was pretty close. That was a fraction of a second.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you can TP back as you're basically, you have to time it so perfectly, though, as you get relocated back in. So, EGM attempting right there.
Yeah, it was pretty close. It was a worthy effort, but he doesn't have buyback and he's down for 40 seconds. They're marching towards the high ground. Their other lanes are in, so there's no potential to split push from Alliance, which you can sometimes see from a Tiny Wisp. They can port to your base and maybe backdoor, but with the Wisp dead and the Tiny not really in shape to do it on his own, the lane's all the way in, they're going to have to defend their high ground, and Clinks eats up a creep with his Death Pact and start plinking away.
That Death Slider, of course, going to help that much more. Shadow Fiend, keep his distance. Clockwork just going to try to really zone them out here with those cogs again. Double chakram now, Limp. He wants to be able to force staff away from that. Just sit on that, of course.
He missed so many times on Clinks. That was insane.
A little unlucky there.
He, if he had hit one more time, they would have gotten the tier 3. They potentially could have gotten the shrines. He's actually out of mana on Swift Ending. Alliance is going to look to punish this.
Oh, that hookshot almost hit Clinks, actually. That would have been huge to even take him out and get the Aegis, and then who knows what would have happened. But, bottom lane, that's why, because we have a fight down here as EGM. Going to help keep Loda alive. Again, the relocate. That's going to be good.
Yeah, that was very close. The tether was about to wear out, but able to get him out, so EPG At the very least, they're going to get this bottom lane in, but Limp, all the meanwhile, immediately books it up the top, shoving this lane in very far. And that's the game Alliance has to play right now. They need to play the split push, the traditional Alliance style, the rat, and just try and use this tiny wisp to trade buildings, potentially keep EPG from playing, getting back. And they have pretty mobile heroes on Alliance. The Shadow Fiend is very, very fast with the Butterfly. They have the Wisp, obviously. They can play around with the cores. The Tiny has Blink Dagger, so it's not a free game at all for EPG. It's not a game where they could just walk down a lane for free without any risk of being split pushed. They need to be very methodical about getting these lanes out, not feeding away pickoffs, and then trying to go for a push after that. They didn't even lose the T3 on Alliance as well, so no Shrine's going to be threatened as of now.
Top lane, going to jump up here, but that's Timbersaw. You were not killing him, guys.
Centaur ult to balance spell, right guys?
Ags Centaur ultimate balance spell. It is pretty damn strong. I know people regard that as one of the stronger Ags in the game, especially, let alone the hero himself. Yeah, Centaur really just appeared recently. Like, I know, I guess 7.0, there was maybe some changes too that helped with that, but he's just such a core now after not really being the most popular hero for a while there. I remember at least, so.
Yeah, I think people just realized how insanely strong this Aghanim is. It's a hero that is quite strong in lane. You can do these dual lanes a lot of times. He comes back quite well, has a farming mechanism, which not a lot of offlaners have, has a very nice stun, a lot of burst damage, and then also has one of the best Aghanims in the game, has a global Ursa ult for some reason.
That's how you put. You don't sound bitter.
It's like
for some reason.
It's fair,
Fair game. OS Frog. Oh yeah, Shadow Fiend, by the way, he ends up going Satanic, and this goes back to that 50% lifesteal talent that we mentioned that he has. He does go Satanic still as well. Is that a concern for you, or does it still actually make sense?
He misclicked BKB. Ew.
Oh no, that's
unfortunate.
Oh, what does that put it at now? That's
7 to
6
6.
seconds. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think you have to buy Satanic on this hero, especially after the Clink's getting the MKB. The Butterfly is basically useless. He actually sold the Butterfly, so sold the Butterfly for the Satanic. So is Hurricane Pike and Manta. It's kind of a low damage build. Having Hurricane Pike and Manta is typically known as a no-no. I think it was okay this game because they were going for that, that second Aegis push where they just walk up the high ground, they end with the Butterfly with the BKB Aegis. But whenever you commit for that, and then now you have this Manta and Hurricane Pike, you can start to run pretty low on damage. Has the Satanic, so it's definitely very tanky, but him being tanky isn't really the issue. It's about, being able to kill EPG before they just storm the supports and bring them down. I don't know if he is in shape to do that. I actually have a DD on Clinks. This bottom tower is melting.
Well, and to go to your point right there, we've been seeing this in this game. Like, you would figure that Alliance, and I'm sure they have picked up on this, but they've just been kiting it. They don't care how tanky it is. They don't even go for him in the fights. They just kill their supporting cast. So that's why I'm even more just curious on the decision here by Limp to go the full Satanic. Now they're going to try to hold here at the base. You mentioned the double damage route though on Clinks. It's making it very difficult to truly commit. And you also have a Timbersaw sitting in the front lines, 21 Bloodstone charges. Hookshot in the background. They do catch Clinks, but the Cogs will push him out. As he is health right there. Stampede finally activated by the Centaur. He's dropping about half life, but now Swift ending. He's getting the auto attacks off, kills Clockwork. Shadow Fiend going right for him in the background. Critical raise out, not enough to land though. Again, he is tanking himself though with Shadow Fiend, so ends up only still being the kill on Clockwork, but
oh, those chakrams.
Oh wow, they're doing work right. And they end up killing Wisp. And now Shadow Fiend's caught. How tanky is he? He pops the Satanic, it's still not enough to stay alive. He has a buyback though. Will he use it right here? Maybe. There we go. He finally uses it. Meanwhile, Timbersaw, he's still up in the front lines. Tiny from a distance. He's going to go down. Triple kill. Coming out for Swift ending. The buybacks are real. This is it for the hold of Alliance. They are going to eventually hold. More so, EPG will choose to fall back, satisfied with 2 big buybacks being used.
EPG is playing so well. The way the early game looked, it looked like they were kind of just going to get run over, but we thought their draft had potential as the game went later, and it definitely does. Alliance is in a super rough spot using buybacks on both Limp and Loda. If Limp goes down, then there's almost no way they can defend their base. And now the Timbersaw having an Octarine core as well. You can see he just walked up to the high ground, didn't even care. The Shadow Fiend hit them the whole time, and there's just nothing they can do. They don't have a way to kill him. The Tiny needs like 3 more items before they have potential to kill this Timbersaw. He's just unkillable, so they have to kite them, have to bring in the Clinks and reduce their damage, and do some kiting of their own Alliance, but the Clinks almost went down in the last fight, had very low HP. Limp forced in and tried to bring him down, but just barely lived. And then they go back in with the chakrams. Centaur goes in and the Clink shoots away from far away. Make sure he doesn't go down. EPG just continue to play these fights very well, and Alliance has they have to play extremely well in these fights, almost perfectly to win them. And now with a refresher on Centaur, I don't even know if perfect is good enough.
See, that's what I was just about to say, that same statement right there, because it's like Alliance. What can they? It feels like they've hit that peak, right? We talked about it with the scaling of the items in general, and the heroes really, for that matter, especially with Shadowfiend, especially going this style of build where he's not necessarily the biggest damage. He was working on Moon Shards, but obviously now that's been delayed because of the buyback. But even with Moon Shards, is he really dealing enough damage? Last fight, no one really got that low other than initially maybe the Clinks, and that was only because they were first initially trying to siege right there. So the double Centaur of those you're talking about with the refresher picked up, even if Alliance plays this quote-unquote perfect play, it still feels like it may just not be enough. Now EPG mix in a little bit of throw, then perhaps there is an opening, but they're going to need that really. I mean, EPG needs to get a little too comfortable and maybe dive the tier 4 towers and ultimately set up some silly plays that get them.
Oh, they have a DD on Limp. That's something.
Yeah, that definitely is going to excel that damage.
Yeah, that's what they needed. That's a game-winning, that's a game-turning rune potentially. If they could look for some fight with the DD, they were smoked up. I think they were looking to take the Roshan. I don't know if EPG actually sees the DD on SF, so maybe they can take a fight at the base. They're trying to split push. Tiny storms towards the base, and they can definitely rat. We talked about this is something that they have the capability to do. Wisp Tiny obviously kills buildings in a record time. As EPG walks toward the base, they haven't shown yet Alliance. They don't know they're ratting.
There we go. He's going to show right now. He goes for the melee racks. Now what do
It's
you
dead.
do?
Oh,
EPG.
almost.
There's a fortification. They will low port back in. Now can he be looking to try and kill the Wisp first? Yep, they're going to kill the
TP on
Wisp.
Tiny.
And now Tiny, he is dead. I mean, he pops at BKB, but that's just going to delay the inevitable right here. A couple of auto attacks later from Swift Ending. He goes down. A godlike streak for the Clinks. And no buyback on Tiny to top it all off. They didn't even get the melee racks.
Yeah, that was super fast reaction time from EPG. They ported so many heroes in immediately, got right on top of the Wisp. Maybe a little bit greedy from EGM, thought they weren't porting in. I think their plan was to try and cancel TPs with the Clockwork, but they weren't actually able to cancel any TPs, so... What the heck, did Timber die? Oh, he denied himself. Okay, so maybe they went on the Timber.
Oh, yeah.
Canceled his TB, and tried to bring him down, but he does end up denying himself, so not really the biggest of deals. And with those two heroes going down, no buybacks, EPG is in a super dominant position.
And he has an Eth blade he's working on his Timber Saw. That's when you know luxury is good. Life is good, as buying such a luxury item as the Eth blade for the Timber Saw. But yeah, dead for another 45 seconds. And they were already low on damage. Not to keep reiterating this negative here, but now with him being dead, good luck dealing enough damage. In fact, Timber Saw, he's just feeling extra comfortable now, especially without the Tiny now. He's dropped about a third of his life or so. He's going to start getting the support, however. Glimmer Cape comes out, and easy racks killed middle. Now they go right for the bottom lane. It really just feels like nothing Alliance can do. You have a Limp over here. He's just trying to kite the, not kite, but finish the creep wave, really. He's just worried about saving the tier 4 towers. They're not necessarily committing towards any kind of fight, but yeah, if you're EPG, you're going right for the mega creeps. And then you kind of let the creeps do their thing from there. They're going to say, screw it, we got to try something in the back of those. Shadowfiend gets jumped too, so Clockwork.
That's Megas.
In distraction, the mega creeps have been spawned. And EPG, rather than a fight, why fight? They're just going to run. A double ultimate comes out from Centaur. Meanwhile, the second Stampede, the freezing field is going to be stopped, though, so a little bit of distraction there from the Crystal Maiden. We'll keep them slowed out, but Maiderack's top level dies.
Yeah, they've roly-poly on out. LeBron actually has a completed AC. I just realized that. Holy cow.
Wow. Our farm here's okay, he gets caught, though, but look at the shot, and he's like, yep, I'm fine. Making the moves.
Yeah, HOD forced staff into an AC, so those buildings just died so fast with Death of the AC, and this Clink's just pumping out about 400 a pop, so Alliance is going to get the Roshan, then potentially try for some Death Ball push towards the throne. I don't know. I think their lineup can defend Mega Creeps for sure. The Shadowfiend doesn't really care about the creeps being on him. He has a lot of lifesteal.
But to what?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's
delaying until what?
It is, it's very, very difficult for Alliance. They always have the potential, whenever you have a tiny Wisp, you can never count a team out, as the buildings, you know, EPG makes one misstep, they overextend a little bit, buybacks are forced out, and then you're in this position where your racks can just get pummeled out of nowhere. So, Alliance, I think they're going to have to play around that. That's really what they need to do. They want to just you know, wait for EPG to make a mistake. They could just sit around the throne, defend for as long as possible, and it's not easy to walk all the way up to the tier 4s. Even when you're as tanky as this Timbersaw is, you start getting hit on by the tier 4s, the damage slowly adds up, and then suddenly there's a Clockwork on top of you, you're getting hit by the SF, the Tiny combos you, and things can start to get a little spooky.
Let's take a look at some 25s. Haven't done too much of that yet. Shadow Fiend has the 150 attack range, pretty typical there. Tiny's actually only 22, so going to be a while for him. Nobody else on their side is 25. How about the other side? Timbersaw with the 20 strength. You have Blink Signal to 70 strafe attack speed. So what is it initially? It's okay, it's 70 more on top. So it was what 130? Now it makes it 200. As well, what's up here? Clockwork. Gonna harass Timbersaw. Timbersaw's like, if you want to fight, I'll fight. Going in with a shock grip. The Stampede activated. They want to chase.
He may go down. No force staff on the Clockwork. He does have buyback though, so not the biggest deal in the world, but they're definitely going to want to force that out.
And Blade helping to do some work right there for that kill. Tiny goes in. Feeling like he has a chance right here. The Mystic Flare on top of that, but the Glimmer Cape popped, and Cole, he'll run away. He's being pushed every which way again with those force staffs. But now here's
right
Clinks, and yeah, Loda's like, crap, I want to stay away from that. He's going to get caught up with those big heals up, though, so he'll survive, and they turn on the Centaur, so the bait is real.
Swift Ending may go
Now
down as well.
Ending, yeah, you want to be careful himself. He pops his BKB, though, the force staff forward.
The Dust caught him.
He's going to be fine. For now, Dust is on him? No, he's good, though.
Yeah, they lost the gem. Was it on Centaur?
He's still just having a good time up here, distracting. Now, look at the Alliance base in the meantime, so they're going to kill Timbersaw. They're going to get LeBron Dota, actually. It's not too bad, but yeah, see the tier 4s. Are going to stay alive, maybe, but it took a bit of damage here. Oh, maybe not.
Oh, very close. It's healable damage.
Oh my
It's
God.
not unhealable. Grant would be furious. This tower would be dead if it was unhealable.
Wow, it actually lives.
Wow.
All right.
So yeah, that's what Alliance has to do. They can play these fights.
Do that 20 more times, and who knows?
Yeah, and this is sort of one of those scenarios where Alliance, they can't really win if they leave the base. They'll definitely lose a fight if they are fighting, you know, in EPG's territory in places where they have wards. They're actually able to get on top of the Wisp and Skywrath, because you can see they didn't actually die in that fight there. Whenever EPG has to play, you know, up towards the throne and the supports are back here, you can't really bring them down.
Yeah.
So it's one of those games where if Alliance leaves the base, they can't really win, but if they stay in the base, they can't really lose either.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of patience. It's a matter of small, you know, misplays in these team fights, and who can just, you know, it's very, very elegant movements can mean a huge difference.
All right, so Shadow Fiend agrees that he was lacking damage. He
Rapier?
just bought a Divine Rapier.
Nice.
So he will have that. What did he sell for that?
His Hurricane Pike. So actually keeps the Ments. Interesting. I guess he wants the movement speed. The movement speed is pretty nice. Along with the drums, he's moving at 418. I think that actually makes a pretty big difference. I think typically you'd want the Hurricane Pike, but I think the movement speed makes a bigger difference than the Force Staff this game and the extra attack range. And he does have the 25 talent, so he doesn't miss the attack range too much.
Well, that Divine Rapier, though, that's obviously an item that if we're going to be seeing it, this is definitely a game that calls for it. I mean, Alliance, they are a team that's also known for being a very patient one, and gonna have to do that here. So I know it sounds like I'm being a little bit bitter sometimes. I understand though that Alliance, you know, what else can they do? It's either just go for that ultimate death ball or play this very, very patient game. We saw in that previous fight, as you were mentioning, that they do have a little bit of hope, and you know, eventually maybe get that lucky 1 or 2 picks without a buyback on the other side, and then commit for some kind of push and play that Rat Dota, as you suggested, of killing the racks and trying to make it even with the Mega Creeps on either side. But right now, EPG moving on in bottom lane. They do not want to give them a comfortable chance just to sit back here. Double ulti's ready to go for Centaur.
Yeah, no buyback on Clockwork. Let's see. Buybacks. Everybody.
Everyone does.
No, no Tiny buyback, no Clockwork buyback, no Skywrath buyback. So.
Tiny does in 700 gold, so he actually has a moon chart on him.
Yeah, it's going to be... I don't think he's going to be able to build up 700 gold before a fight starts up here. LeBron's actually rolling into the trees. They don't know he's here, I don't think. He has a Hex. Holy crap, he's so far in.
Thirst Spirit just knows what he's doing. And he's going to go in right here. There's that Hex being used right away on Clockwork. Going for the quick kill. The end-play nuke comes out, and down goes Clockwork. 70-second cooldown. No buyback for him to be had. Meanwhile, the second center ultimate of the Stampede's ready to go. Swift ending. going at it with his BKB up Limp, but Limp also falls back. You see Tiny clearing out the creep waves in the meantime, knowing that that's so important. They're playing two different games. They're playing PvE with the creeps, and they're also playing PvP versus the heroes, making it extra difficult. Now the BKB popped by Tiny. He'll jump in. He misses the avalanche, though, and now Mitch, the hook stop, that's also going to whiff. And a little bit of misplays on either side. Timberchain in, they catch Shadow Fiend. There's that Hex. The nuke on him. He's at about half-life currently. He gets ported back, though, by the with Tiny not so lucky. He gets cut down. The tier 4 is going to fall, and that could be the beginning of the end for EPG. Are they actually going to do it? Defeat Alliance here. It looks like it. Another port out, not going to be enough. Down goes Shadow Fiend. He has a buyback, but it's too little too late.
GG.
GG, well played. EPG defeats Alliance.
They played so well.
They are both 4-2 now. The record, I did not think I'd be saying that.
Yeah, they played really, really well. Alliance, with this draft, they put themselves on a timer. They put themselves on a very, very execution-based lineup. You have to play very crisp with these supports, with Clockwork, Tiny, these heroes that really just don't scale very well at all. They won their lanes. They played very, very pristinely. The Roche fight wasn't amazing, and then that base push, the game became so hard from there. Whenever they lost that Aegis really was their timing. If you look at their draft, they want to end the game with the Butterfly, the BKB, the Aegis, and they couldn't do it. And then the Clinks just gets too many items. They get this double Centaur Ags ult, and then nobody can die. The Timbersaw is super tanky. They get this Hex on LeBron, and then the game just becomes so hard for Alliance, and that's what happens. It's super well played from EPG.
Yeah, I really want to focus on the positives here. Exactly, EPG very well played. The teamwork was looking very good in the mid, and especially that late game. The patience on their part was very critical in the victory, and you know what, Clinks, he proved to be very effective as the game picked up too. And just simple things like you said with that Earth Spirit picking up the helm of the Dominator and throwing in that synergy there with the Clinks. It's kind of those small things that could definitely add up and make for much more effective play. So love seeing that play from them. And again, they put themselves at a 4-2 record, tied with Alliance up there. And that means now Bears and Team Secret are the only teams with one loss. Bears currently at 5-1. And Secret, they're playing Bean Boys, but they have a 4-1 record. Depending on how that game finishes right there. But again, the top 4 of these 10 teams advance on. It's all of a sudden a 6-team race, if not more, depending on how other teams do. And I guess that's probably going to surprise a bit of people, no doubt, including myself. But EPG looking good, and we'll see how they continue momentum.
Let's go Swift Ending.
Here. Swift Ending, man. He's a popular Slark player.
Let's go.
Many love that.
17-5.
Is that what he went that game? Okay, 75-9. Yeah. Anyways, what do we got next? We got Bears versus Pro Dota. Speaking of Bears, up there on top. So we've seen an upset here with EPG. I mean, so don't count anything out yet, but obviously that's a matchup that you'd figure Bears should be able to handle against Pro Dota Gaming. But we're going to take a short break, guys. Stay tuned. Again, I was Breaky CPK, joined by CC&C. We'll be right back to the Kiev Major EU Qualifiers.